Okay, so welcome everybody. This is Stephanie Wells again at MEFA. I'm Director of College Relations here at MEFA, and I'm here with some of my colleagues that I'm going to have introduce themselves in a second. This webinar today is the MEFA Institute webinar related to MEFA loans. So what's new for 23-24? We're going to go over, all the details of the loan program for this upcoming year, as well as some other resources that MEFA has available. For those of you who are just logging in, we do have everybody on mute, so we won't be able to hear your voice. So if you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A, and we will answer those throughout, and we'll definitely leave plenty of time for Q&A. And with that, I do want to introduce our team. I'll let our team introduce themselves. Again, my name is Stephanie Wells. I've been at MEFA for a little over 22 years. And we're happy to present this webinar. We try to do one of these every year as the loan season kicks off to tell you all what's new. And we're really excited today that we have over 150 people registered for the webinar, everywhere from Hawaii to Massachusetts and all the states in between. So welcome to everybody. And I'll have my friend Sean Morrissey introduce himself.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Morrissey. I am also Director of College Relations at MEFA. I've been with MEFA since September, but I have about 30 years of experience in the financial aid community. I most recently was Director of Financial Aid at UMass Medical School for about 10 years. And before that, I was at Birmingham State University in Massachusetts for 18 years. So look forward to talking to you this afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Darina?
Hello, my name is Darina Barreto. I am the College Relations Associate here at MEFA, and I have been in this role for 3 years now. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Darina. And last but not least, Meg.
Hi, I'm Meg Villavicencio. I'm on MEFA's loan originations team, and I've been with MEFA over 20 years. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. So for those of you who might not be as familiar with MEFA compared to maybe some of our friends in Massachusetts that we've been working with since 1982, in 2019, MEFA went national. So we're now a national lender. So all of your students, regardless of their state of residence or state of school they're attending, can borrow a MEFA loan. And MEFA is being a state authority, we do operate at, in a very critical mission to help educate families through the entire college enrollment process. We also have college savings plans. We run the state's 529 plan, and we have lots of other resources that I'm going to tell you about in a second. But that's a little bit about MEFA. Now let's just talk real quick about our agenda. So I will go over some general MEFA updates, educate you on a little bit more about MEFA if you're not as familiar. And then Sean is going to talk a little bit more in depth about the loan program and the counseling that we're providing for families. Then we'll turn it over to Darina. She's going to get into the nitty-gritty about processing enhancements, processing reminders. So for those of you who are certifying loans, you're going to love that section. And then Meg is going to do a demo of our MEFA loan certification portal. So many of you might be certifying loans in Elm, but many of you might also be using our online loan portal, and some might be using a combination of both. So Meg's going to give a quick demo at the end to help you understand some little tips and tricks that you might not be familiar with. All right, so let's get started. So as I mentioned, as a state authority, MEFA has a very robust mission-based philosophy of how we operate. So we really do start early with families, trying to promote early college planning and education. From the time the baby is born, we partner with the state treasurer's office to offer Baby Steps, which is a seed program where we give families $50. The state does here in Massachusetts to open up a 529 plan. So everything from the savings plans to we have a college and career portal called MEFA Pathway, which is a free service for high schools here in Massachusetts to use. And we also have programs such as the Attainable Savings Program for folks with disabilities, people in the disabled community to use to save at a tax advantage way without minimal impact to SSI benefits. So we offer lots of things. One of the biggest programs that we offer, though, here at MEFA is our guidance and education. So for families and students, we offer as many webinars as the eye can see on every little topic related to college enrollment. So it could be a webinar just on how to get an FSA ID, to how to fill out your FAFSA or CSS profile form, to college admissions and paying the college bill. And we have tons of blogs, articles, and resources on our website. We're always looking for guest presenters and writers of blogs. So if you have a good idea, just let us know. We'd love to have guest writers, and we have a podcast as well. So make sure you're listening to that MEFA podcast, and you may see some colleagues that you know as guests on our podcast as well. So lots of training and outreach. We do have what's called the MEFA Institute that we started during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we had to do all of our in-person programming and move it online, which is great. Being a national lender, we can reach all of you no matter where you are in the country. If you can't attend an in-person program, we have lots of great programs on the MEFA Institute. So the MEFA Institute really is focused on education training for college administrators, school counselors, and community-based organizations such as our, Gear Up programs and TRIO programs. So we work with lots of folks in the industry to help educate our families as well as our partners, such as our partners at colleges and universities. A couple of great examples of some MEFA Institute webinars, including the one that we're on today. We are going to have a part 2 of our FAFSA simplification updates. So we had a great webinar in May for college administrators, and we did another one in June for school counselors to tell them at least as much as what we know at this point, and have a discussion about FAFSA simplification. I think right now folks can't get enough of that topic. So we'll be scheduling that one in September. So keep an eye on your email box for that invitation. Then on August 23rd, we will be sending directors of financial aid an invite to forward the webinar invitation to their college admissions friends. So we have a great webinar on August 23rd for college admissions counselors and administrators to learn more about financial aid, to understand the basics. So before they hit the fall travel season and hit the road, they'll be able to talk with more expertise to families about financial aid. And we'll have a panel discussion for that webinar with some enrollment management experts. So we'll be sending another invitation for that soon. So keep an eye out for that. The other nice thing about that webinar is one of the things we focus on with admissions counselors is when you should hand the baton to your friends in financial aid. What you should know about your financial aid programs and processes at their school, as well as when, it's a situation like an appeal, for example, where it's best to send them over to their friends in financial aid. So we cover a lot of that. And then next week, Sean is going to be doing a great webinar about the loan repayment pause coming to an end to help students and families and college administrators get back into the swing of things with that. So that will be a great webinar to tap into as well. I also want to just show you real quick our college administrator webpage. Some of you may be logging into this regularly, and some of you may never have tapped into it because you just go on Elm and you certify your loans. If you ever have any questions, our phone number and email is right here. So if you just go to mefa.org, you'll see the college administrator tab right there at the top. And we did just recently revamp this within the last month. So we've added a lot of good information for you to find at your fingertips so that you don't have to search our website for the items that you need the most when processing MEFA loans or helping to guide families. So you'll see our interest rates are right here. Sean's going to get a little bit more into the details of the loan, but we are excited that as a national lender, we're able to offer some of the lowest or most competitive fixed rate loans in the country, and with rates ranging from 5.35% to 7.95%. So that's a very narrow range, very low rates, all below the federal plus loan. And you really won't find that type of rate with an entire range below plus through many lenders, unless it's a state-based lender like MEFA. So we're very excited to be able to continue to offer these great rates. Then also here, you'll see your 2 certification options. So ELM, which many of you are using, and we have some FAQs here. So anything you need to know about processing through ELM, you could probably find right here, as well as if you're certifying through MEFA's online portal. So if you want to add new users, you can click this little tab that will bring you into a page to fill out a form that we'll get. If you have someone who's at your school that is no longer there, they've left, and you want to turn their access off, you can modify their access. If you want to set up wire transfer EFT disbursements, you can do that right here as well. So there's a lot of good information here, as well as a form to send EFT refunds to, including, of course, FAQs just related to the online portal. And Meg is going to demo the portal at the end, as well as the one thing I did want to point out here is that we do have the login button here, the blue one. So you can use that to log in. This green button up here is really more for all of MEFA's programs and services. So we did try to call out the login button there. That's a little bit closer on your page. Then you'll also find here, we added, this is a new introduction on this page, all the details on MEFA loans. So it's going to be in other places on the MEFA site, but we wanted you to have it at your fingertips. So the loan rates for undergrad and graduate loans, loan eligibility requirements. So these are some of our commonly asked questions, what you're certifying the loan for. So, you know, they have to be making SAP, for example. They need to be enrolled at least half-time. Doreena's going to go through some more of those details in a minute, as well as just a little bit more detail about the MEFA loan, such as minimum loan amounts, which we get that question a lot. You know, what is the maximum loan amount? Are there any fees? Things like that. Then we also have our loan repayment options here, as well as our loan disclosures and fact sheets, which Sean's going to cover in a bit. Then we have all of our contact information here, our college relations team, as well as links to the MEFA Institute. So you can see some of those webinars I just mentioned, those are coming up. You can see the one that we're on right now, as well as down here on August 23rd, that webinar for college admissions counselors. And then at the bottom, we have the FAQs that we get a ton of, and we wanted to make sure that they were here, as well as in the ELM and loan portal sections. So just want to give you a quick update on that page, because we made it just for you, so that it'll be a good resource for you. So hopefully that's going to work out good for you. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he is going to talk more about the loan guidance we give for families and some of the tips that we're giving them based on our comparing loan options webinar that we do with families.
Thank you, Stephanie. So we talk to a lot of families. We have one-on-one meetings. We have calls that come in, and we find that students and families don't always understand the terms of a loan. So we try to go into as much depth as we can with them on educating them. Just things as basic as interest rate. Some families don't understand that well. I was on a call a couple of weeks ago with a student that is just graduating from high school, and he had no understanding of how the interest rate worked. He was looking at all the different repayment options. He was looking at the interest-only repayment option, thinking that if he pays the interest while he's in school, he will have paid off the interest and won't have to pay any interest after he graduates school. So I had to really go through step by step with him about how interest works. So we have quite a few webinars about guiding families through the whole payment process, talking to them about using a combination of savings, payment plans, loans in order to pay education. And I understand schools get a lot of questions from families talking about how do they choose a loan. And while you can't recommend a certain lender, some of the things that you can point out to families about ways that they can choose the best loan.
Okay, Sean is freezing. You're freezing, Sean. Your screen's freezing. So I'll just keep going for Sean while he, you're all set now.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sean. You were frozen. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So to look at the full range of interest rates that are available on the loan, not just the lowest advertised rate, because most families aren't going to qualify for the lowest interest rate. That's usually tied to credit and also to the repayment option that they're choosing. So most families are falling in the middle or the high end of the interest rate on that due to their income range. So the thing to look at is that full range of interest rates that are available. Could you go to the next slide, please? And the repayment term as well is the length that the families, they don't understand always what those different repayment terms are. I'm going to be going over in a few minutes a calculator that's available on the MEFA website that shows them what their payments will look like under all of these different repayment terms. And we'll also be looking at some other information that reflects how this works and what that looks like for families under the different repayment terms, how that will change the amount that they pay over time. Next slide, please. So one thing that families aren't looking at that's really available to them would be really valuable for them are the application and solicitation disclosures. And by law, all lenders do have to disclose this information. There is a template that is required for all lenders to have. All we can do is update our specific loan information. We can't change what's on that template. So every lender will be presenting the same exact information. And if you're using Elm Select, all of these disclosures are in Elm Select, but they will also be on the website. MEFA has this on their website. And what they should look at are the interest rates, the fees, and the total cost. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to compare a couple of different disclosures to show you what families should be looking at and what you can point out to them. So on the left, we have the MEFA loan disclosure, and on the right, we have another loan disclosure from another national lender. And you see here, what all lenders have to disclose is the interest rate for their highest possible starting rate. So the worst case scenario for all of their loans. For MEFA, that can range from 7.35 to 7.95, depending on which repayment plan that they're enrolling in, because that is one of the factors in determining the interest rate. And you'll see the interest rate for this other lender is much higher. It goes from 16.615%, and that's the same for all of their different options. So you see, for a family that borrows $10,000 and is in the immediate repayment plan, that after 10 years, they would pay $14,000. If they're on the 15-year repayment plan, you'll see there that it's $17,000 that they would pay after paying off that for the life of the loan. For the other lender, that same 15 years, borrowing the same $10,000, they're paying $27,200 at the end of the loan. But then if you look at deferred repayment, this is where the big change comes in. At MEFA, it's only $19,856 after doing those deferred repayments. So it's only about $2,000 different than doing immediate repayment. If you look at the other lender, it's $46,420 after making all of those payments. That's a huge difference just by choosing one lender over the other. And in most cases, these are for families that have the same kind of credit score. They're just going through a different lender and they have different tiers based on this. So it's not that they're qualifying for a loan at one lender and not in another. But for the difference in costs, immediate repayment over $10,000, deferred repayment is over $26,500. So we always recommend to families to look at the different loans that are available to them. If they have a really great credit rating, they may get one of those really low rates from a lender. But if they have middle to lower credit rating, they want to really check out that range of loans and to shop around. Families also don't understand that if they are applying for education loans, they can do inquiries from different lenders and only have one hit to their credit if they do that within 60 days. So That is a great.
Yeah, 45, it's a 45-day window where
I'm
it's
sorry.
just one credit hit. Yep,
Thank you, Stephanie.
no problem.
And I was talking a little bit about the student loan payment calculator that's on the MEFA website. And this is a great tool that families can put in there exactly the amount that they want to borrow. They can show the years before graduation, and they can also choose their different credit profiles, so good, very good, exceptional. And this is going to show them exactly what those monthly payments look like, both during school and after they graduate under each of those plans, and the total amount of cost over the life of the loan. And so that's really great information for them to have to help make the decision as to what the best plan is for them. When we're talking to families, we often talk about, well, how much can you afford per month? And what's the best way to use that funding? Is it a combination of loans, payment plans, savings? What can you pay now? What do you want to defer till later? And we wanted to just show you the comparison between MEFA and PLUS. It shows here the MEFA loan range. We are below PLUS for all of our entire range. We don't have any fees where there is the origination fee on PLUS. PLUS does have some income-based repayment plans, public service loan forgiveness, some other benefits that private loans do not have. But aside from that, when you're comparing the MEFA loan to the PLUS loan, those are the things to look at. And when we are counseling families, we always counsel them to look at any type of federal loans that are available to the student, and also talk to them about what their federal loan options are.
So we're going to switch gears and get into the loan processing stuff. I think we can skip this slide, Stephanie. Or should I mention? Okay, so I'm just going to start off with the MEFA loan eligibility requirements. So whether you certify on ELM or you certify on our portal, this is the requirements that you will be approving, basically. So that the first one would be that the amount that you are certifying is equal to or less than the student's cost of attendance minus estimated financial aid. And the estimated financial aid should not include the MEFA loan. It should just be what the student is being awarded in aid. And then you are also confirming that the student is enrolled at least half-time in an accredited degree granting program, and that the student is making satisfactory academic progress as defined by your institution. And I just always like to clarify that the satisfactory academic progress, it really is the policy that you have in place at your institution. MEFA doesn't provide any extra guidelines in terms of what the credit limit is. So it would be whatever policy you have in place, the student needs to be making it in order to be eligible for the MEFA loan. And then we'll go to the next slide and we'll talk about our summer loan eligibility policy and prior balance policy as well.
And I just want to interrupt real quick, Dorina, and let folks know if you have any questions. We turned off the chat, but please type those in the Q&A and we'll answer those as we go. So feel free to type those in, and this is about the time of the presentation when we'll get a lot of questions. So go ahead, Dorina. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, please do feel free to pop your questions in there. We will be going through some new stuff, especially our prior balance. So I'll just kick off with our summer loan policy, since we are at that time where you might be certifying some summer loans. So with our summer loan policy, because it is a shorter term, if the student is enrolled less than half-time, they can still be eligible for the MEFA loan if they are enrolled for the current academic year at least half-time. So if they were enrolled at least half-time during the academic year, it is okay if they're enrolled less than half-time during the summer. When you are certifying the loan in our portal or on ELM, you should use the student's enrollment status of at least half-time during the academic year. And I do see a question. I'm going to move on to the prior balance while Stephanie checks that out. So we have a new prior balance policy. We've gotten a lot of feedback in the past that our previous policy was kind of a catch-22 because it required that the student be, currently enrolled at the time of the certification, and it was for the current academic year. So we've changed that recently, and our new policy is that a MEFA loan may be used to cover a prior balance for the previous semester. And at the time of the certification, the student must be enrolled, intending to enroll, or have completed their degree. And with that change as well, you are now able to certify using the exact loan period that the prior balance is being used for, which is something you were not able to do in the past, because in the past you had to make sure that the disbursement fell within the certified loan period. So a lot of times you had to kind of set the end loan period to the current month that you're in order for the disbursement to go out. So that's something a little bit different that we will be doing going forward now. And Stephanie, I'm going to pause and see if, did we need
I do want
to
to
that question live or?
pause real quick and just address a question that came in to ask if we have any plans to start processing through ScholarNet.
Okay.
And the answer to that is we don't have any immediate plans, but keep those requests coming, because all of us in college relations, we're always raising that up to our senior management. We're actually at a training today with our executive director, and we were pushing the scholarship processing piece. So it's not easy for us to just add in a processing platform. It took many years to convince folks to move to Elm. So we're definitely on to the next thing, on to ScholarNet, and constantly providing feedback to our senior management. So it is on our radar. It's not something that we have decided not to do. It's just it's a big lift. So we definitely won't be doing anything for peak season this year. But we want to make sure that, we're doing well with our loan originator, and they're able to help us process these loans very well, because it's a little bit more of a lift when you're going through Elm or ScholarNet on the lender side than you would think. So for now, if you're not using Elm, our online portal is super easy to use. Meg's going to show you that in a second, but I did want to just address the ScholarNet issue because I know we have a lot of ScholarNet schools on the line. So go ahead. Do you want me to go to the next slide, Jarina? Are we good?
So let's hold on 1 second. I
Okay.
see a question about how long can the prior balance be for. So we have changed it to the previous semester, and we don't count summer as a semester. So for example, if you had a student right now who owes a spring prior balance, because they're intending to enroll for the fall, that student would be eligible to have a MEFA loan. So it is just a previous semester that would be eligible for the prior balance loan.
Great. And we have a couple questions. I'll just answer real quick while we're live. So we do have one question about if the student chooses not to make any payments while they're in school, they would have to choose the deferred option in order to be allowed to not make payments while they're in school. So the second part of that question is, how is the interest added to the principal? So interest is assessed on an outstanding daily balance and is capitalized once at the time of repayment. So that is how that works there. And then we'll just answer this other one real quick while we're on here, and then I'll go to the next slide for Jarina. So we have a question about students who might need a class or two to get into a program at a school if they're eligible for the MEFA loan. And unfortunately, the answer to that is no, because students do need to be enrolled in a degree granting program. So if they're not enrolled in a degree granting program, they wouldn't be able to use the MEFA loan. And some of the criteria on the MEFA loan is part of our enabling legislation. So, that's one thing. Certificate programs or anything like that, we're not able to lend for. Do you want to answer the summer? So then there's a summer loan question here, and then I'm going to move on to the next slide so we can keep moving. And then we'll answer more questions as we go. So question about the summer semester being a trailer at your school. Let's see, is enrolled. So the summer, you do not have to be enrolled half-time, but the student would need to be enrolled at least half-time for the academic year. So hopefully I answered that correctly for that enrollment question. All right, Doreen, why don't we keep going?
Thank
Oh,
you.
there we go. Okay.
For this slide, we're going to be focused on ELM processing. So for all the schools that process on ELM, for our portal schools, you know, the portal is set up very specific and geared towards the MEFA loan, whereas with ELM, it's a little bit different. There's more that goes into it. So I'm just going to get into some guidelines and recommendations that we have for you guys going into the certification season. With the MEFA, most undergrad students, they have someone on the loan with them. So we consider it a family loan, and both the student and the borrower information needs to be on the certification. So when you are processing a MEFA loan, you should be processing it as a parent or sponsor loan. If you do process the loan with only the student's information, it will cause delay because we would have to go in and correct it in order for the loan to go forward, because both the student and the borrower information needs to be on the certification. As I mentioned earlier, when you are entering the student's estimated financial aid, it should not include the MEFA loan. We've seen a few of that and had questions. That's why we wanted to just address it really quickly as a reminder going into the certification season. And then something new we've come across that we just wanted to mention and make some recommendation to you all is, if you are a school that certifies via file on ELM, if a student applies for multiple loans on the same day, and then you guys also certify on the same day, we've seen a case where it might cause a mix-up on how the certification links up to the multiple loans that the students have. And so we've kind of talked to ELM and got some recommendations to provide to you all. And if you do see a situation where the student has multiple applications that came on the same day, we would just recommend manually certifying the loan on ELM 1 if you're able to do so, or certify the oldest request first, and provide a day difference between the multiple applications so that everything can flow very well through the system and link up correctly. You can also certify using the lender common unique ID from the initial request. And if you do just use the same process that you usually do, doing them all at the same time, just double check, later on to make sure that it did link up the way that you wanted it to. So then if it didn't, it will provide us time to be able to fix it before the disbursements start to go out for the loans. And then the next piece, in Common Line, unfortunately, you're not able to enter, figures over 99999. And that is for the cost of attendance, estimated financial aid, and loan amount. So that restriction, we've seen it. We've had cases where if a school has a loan program like a health professionals, the student might have a cost of attendance that's a little bit higher. So the workaround that we've kind of been recommending is using our MEFA portal, because most of our schools still have access to our MEFA portal, even if they are on ELM. So going on our portal and just entering the numbers exactly how it's supposed to be, and then scheduling your disbursement, and all the information will flow into ELM, and you will receive the disbursement via ELM and GN as well. So nothing's going to change. The only thing you would be doing differently is going to our portal to certify that specific loan correctly with the correct figures to make sure that the disbursement is set up correctly for the right amount. And I think that's all on this slide, Stephanie.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to add just about the $100,000 limit, very few schools are, it's not an issue at many schools, maybe a medical school. Where we've seen that come into play is for schools who are offering maybe an 18-month maybe master's program in nursing or some sort of health professions, where they're getting their degree in a short period of time, which is why the program is over 100,000. So occasionally schools, and as costs climb, we'll see what happens. You might come into that, but it's for most schools, they don't have to worry about that.
For this part, we're going to talk about loan amount changes, and this would be for both Elm and our portal schools. So after you certify, sometimes there are changes that happens in terms of the student's need. So prior to disbursement, you are able to increase or decrease the loan amount up to 3 days before the disbursement is scheduled to go out. When you are making increases to the loan amount, you can increase it up to the original requested amount until the final disbursement goes out. And the thing that I will kind of just divide up in terms of how you certify with us is for our Elm schools, after you do certify the loan, if you need to make increases because the cost of attendance has changed, unfortunately, you're not able to make edits to the cost of attendance or estimated financial aid. So we would just ask that you get in touch with us if you needed to update that number so we can make sure it's updated so it allows room in the budget for the student for that increase. But for our portal users, you guys are able to go and make that change directly on our portal if you needed to make that change. And post disbursement, decreases to any loan amount would need to be handled in the form of a loan refund. And I will talk a little bit more about the options for a loan refund. And if the loan hasn't reached the status of fully dispersed and you needed to make increases to the loan, you can still do so up to the original requested amount until the final disbursement date. And if the loan has reached a fully dispersed status, unfortunately, you are not able to increase the loan at that point. The student would need to do a new application if they needed additional funding. And then we'll just move on.
And this is where I send out my plea to help us educate families that they can apply for the full academic year. A lot of families think, well, I'm just going to apply for the fall semester because I don't want to pay interest on my spring semester loan until I'm ready to use it in January. And what I think a lot of families don't realize is that interest doesn't accrue until monies are dispersed to the school. So it's much easier, and Dorina will talk about this on the next slide about refunds. It's much easier for them to apply for the full academic year, get their loan in place. They can always decrease it if they need to, but then they have the funds they need for the full year. They don't have to worry about having to reapply. Maybe credit scores change up or down, and they might not even get the same interest rate as they did, in May, for example. So definitely let folks know to apply for the full academic year if they need it. And they won't be paying interest on any funds until it's sent to the school.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, for adding that in. I will just also mention along the lines of that, for our schools that certify on Elm, timing is very, timing is everything. Especially, I would say one thing that I just want you guys to keep in mind going into certification season is when you are reducing a loan on Elm, if you don't see the update right away, just get in touch with us first before putting in another request, just to prevent, a double reduction on the loan. Because if you are sending a refund, that's going to come through Elm, and then once we have it, we're going to update it on our system. So that can take some time. So just keep that in mind when you are making change requests via Elm, that things take time. And if you don't see an update right away, just call us first before putting in another request. So for loan refunds, for our Elm school, you can issue a loan refund through Elm NDN, and that money will be sent to us, and then we will process it on our end. For portal schools who don't receive funding through NDN, you can send us a refund electronically. That form is available on the college administrator's page, or you can also send us a check to the mailing address that we have on this PowerPoint, which is also on our college administrator's page. We process all of our refunds, whether you're an Elm school or portal school, we process all the refunds on Wednesdays. So if you don't see a change to the student's account right away, just keep that in mind. It could be that we haven't either received the money yet, or we just haven't processed it yet because we have a specific date that we just do all of them. So again, just call us so we can speak to the status of it and provide the right guidance that you need. And the last thing that I will just mention is that once we do receive a refund, the interest is reversed on the amount that is refunded to us.
Great, thanks, Trina. I also just wanted to add one thing about whether it's loan changes, increases, or whatnot. Within that 3-day window before the disbursement, as Dorena mentioned, the loan is locked for disbursement. If we get a call before the loan is funded, whether it's through Elm or our portal, and the loan might be locked, but give us a call if it hasn't happened yet. We might be able to pull the disbursement. Meg, I don't know if you want to jump in on the exact timing for portal and Elm schools about when we're funding, but sometimes if it's within that window where it's locked and you can't make changes, we might be able to pull the disbursement. Then you can make changes and we can disperse the next week or a few days later. Not always, can't guarantee it, especially if it's on, the day before the loan's going to disperse, for example, through Elm. We funded that loan, it's out the door already. So we can't make any changes or even pull it, but it really depends on the timing. Even in that 3-day window, there might be a sliver if you call us right away where we can pull it out. Did I get all that right, Meg?
Yep, exactly. You're right. And there's a 1-day difference between the MEFA internal and NDN. So NDN, we need 1 extra day, whereas the MEFA internal, we could pull the day before the disbursement.
Yeah, it's just a way to avoid having to do a refund. So, okay, let's see here. All right, so I guess, so that's great. Loan processing. Thank you, Dorena. If you guys have any questions, just type those in the Q&A. We'll send copies of this slide along with the recording to everybody who registered. And before I turn it over to Meg, I just want you to know that you have all of our contact info here. If you're in Elm School, their contact info is right here as well. So feel free to type in those questions and answers. And I am going to turn it over to Meg. Meg, you should be able to share your screen. If I stop sharing mine, let's see if that works for us. Yes, it's working. Great.
Great. So here is the portal. You guys can see it. And one of the things that we hear a lot about the portal is how straightforward and easy to use it is. So hopefully you'll feel that way as well as we go through. So there's a couple different ways you could search or certify a loan. Up on the top here, you could search by SSN or by the application ID or by the student's name or a combination of the name here. Or if you just want to look at all the loans that are out there for you to certify, you can go down to the certify loans. And this will pull up a list of any loans that are ready to certify for your school. So now there's 2 different ways you can certify. You can certify right from this list by clicking on this box, and then you'll see that the required fields pop up. Grad date, grade level, enrollment status, and the cost of attendance, financial aid, and then you can put in the certified amount and the disbursement dates. You could also certify multiple loans at once. You could pre-fill loan periods and the cost of attendance and dates if you wanted to do that that way. There's a little pre-fill button over here. Or the other option would be that you can click on the student's name here, and this brings you to what we call the loan detail screen. So there's just a little more information here. There's different sections and you can expand them up here to see more information. The address of the student that they put on the application, what kind of program it is. This is a graduate interest only loan. And it gives, a little more information here, application date. And then here are the fields that you can certify. And you can change the loan period. It defaults to the loan period the student put on the application. You could always change it to whatever you need it to be. And then you would put in the graduation date. The student grade level is a drop-down box. So for graduate loans, it displays the graduate years. And then enrollment status, you can select either full or half-time because students have to be at least half-time to be eligible. So then you would go ahead and put the cost of attendance, what the estimated financial aid is. And then down here, you can see that it defaults. This is a full year loan, so it defaulted to 2 disbursements. And these are our default dates. You could change these dates to whatever date you need. For internal disbursements, we disperse on Fridays only. So you could put the applicable dates. You can do uneven amounts. You could do, if you wanted more money in the fall, and there are edits that are built in that will help. So this is saying, that the disbursements need to equal the certified amount. So if we did this, so that goes away, and then you would hit continue. And this is the language that Darina talked about earlier, that you're certifying that it's an amount equal to or less than 100% of the cost of attendance minus other financial aid, and that the students enrolled at least half time in a degree granting program. So as you can see, pretty straightforward. We hit submit, and it will just go ahead and process, and then it updates in real time. We can go back and see the loan detail. We see now it's approved for disbursement. And as Darina mentioned, you can go in if you needed to make changes to this loan up until it disperses. You can make changes. You can go back in, change the loan period. Maybe you actually wanted it to be split, so equal amounts per disbursement. There's a little tool here that could split it. It does the math for you. You can click continue and hit submit. So I think it's pretty straightforward. We talked about one question that comes up sometimes. Darina talked about refunds. And if you're certifying in the portal, you can't initiate a refund through the portal. The portal will be updated once the refund is received. So as Darina mentioned, you could send a check or send the refund electronically. And once we process the refund, the portal will be updated. So that's really, that's in terms of certifying a loan, it's very straightforward. There's also the option to view a status report on the portal. So you could pick a particular status. Maybe you wanted, all applications that are approved for disbursement, and you could, and loans that are certified. This is a test region, so I don't know that we have any in here, but just to let you know, how you would use that search. And then the same thing for those of you who are receiving internal MEFA disbursements. This is where you would pull down your roster. So you would go in and pick, the date that you wanted to view. So maybe it's from last week. And you would search, and then you would pull down, and there's an ability to download it. So that's the portal. And as always, if you have any questions, certainly reach out to us.
Excellent. Thank you, Meg.
Of course.
So I'm going to just leave it open for just a second to see if anybody has any questions. You can type those in. And, if you have folks in the bursar's office that you want to be able to view disbursements, you can set them up with that user form to fill that out as a view only. Or if you have certifiers, you want some backup folks in the office to be able to certify. If you ever have any questions about certifying a loan, we'd be happy to help you with that. If you have questions, did you get a refund check? We can look up that. We can look up pretty much anything you need. So definitely give us a call. Let's see, we have a quick question here. How long do EFT payments take to get to schools? So if it's through the portal, the payment will be there on the disbursement date of Friday. And same with Elm, right? It should be there the date of the disbursement if it's electronic disbursement. The only delay that comes with disbursements is really schools that are getting check disbursements, because it has to go through snail mail. And those disbursements checks are sent on the following business day. So if it's a Friday disbursement, because all the portal disbursements are on Fridays, it'll be sent that following Monday, unless it's a long weekend like Memorial Day, then it'll be sent Tuesday. So it can, add a little time there. So I know that, some of our ScholarNet schools might not be able to do the electronic disbursements. We've talked to some of them, but some have chosen to do electronic disbursements, and it just would make your life, I think, a little bit easier, especially during the billing season when you're looking for payments. So, but yeah, good question there. And do we have any others? All right, I'll just leave it open for a quick second while we say goodbye. So just let us know, folks, if you have any questions. You have our number, you have our emails, we're here for you. And we will send a copy of these slides as well as a link to the recording for everybody who registered for the webinar. So we have your email. Now that you're in our system, if you're new to MEFA, then you'll get invitations to all of our great MEFA Institute webinars.
I just wanted to
Anybody
add,
from MEFA? Yep, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add, if you are a school that's set up to receive checks and you are interested in signing up for EFT, that form is on our college administrators page. So you can go and just download it and get that filled out, and we can get you set up.
Great, awesome. Meg, Sean, any last words of wisdom? Oh, we have another question. Okay, who can I contact to make sure EFT is set up? Give us, send us a quick email to mefacertify@mefa.org. And it usually takes, so we have you email us the EFT form. Then we say give it about 2 weeks. Sometimes it's set up quicker than that. Meg works with our accounting team to get that set up. But all you have to do is call or email us and we can look at your status in our system to see if you're set up yet. And but usually we say give it 2 weeks, but sometimes it's even sooner than that. But that's a good question. All right, any other questions? I don't see any coming in. So I'm gonna end the webinar for everybody, and we hope to hear from you this summer. Next week is when our calls and emails like start picking up. And I should remind, should let you know that we are open 9 to 6 during the summer through Labor Day. So especially for those schools on the West Coast, give us a call. We're open till 6 Eastern time through Labor Day during the busy season. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great summer. We hope to hear from you, and let us know if you need anything. Thank you.